I don't know, what would you call this? Kind of low mode here. We're not going to track what forms we have open. We want to, of course, in testing, to have multiple client forms open. No reason really to have multiple server forms open, but we can. So that is our toolbar. Hold on. Let's go ahead and test it real fast. Server, yep, there's our server form. Client, yep, there's our client form. We have a toolbar. Okay, let's jump over to our server. Let's close our toolbar just to get from out from up here. I guess since I only have an 8th generation i7, that's why I'm getting so punished by Microsoft. That's just horrible. Just a horrible old system. Okay, so being sarcastic here. And look, it won't even show me the form now. It's actually just showing a black screen. Okay, so put both of our buttons in there. And because we're using multi-threading, we need to also double-click on the port. And so we'll get a text change function on the port. TCP client, of course, it's not available yet. We've got to add the using for it. Let's go ahead and do that right now. There we go. So those are all of our available ports. And I might try to clean up the code a little bit while we're doing this. So don't freak out if I get a little error because I clean up the wrong thing. I'm working on my Udemy course and I just came up with this brilliant idea. Since I'm doing multiplayer over there, why don't I put that on YouTube? So we'll have system messages. So since we're doing multi-threading and the system messages and the messages will come back on a different thread, we need to do all this. We need to get all this information and store it somewhere until we display it. Because we do not have access to the controls from another thread unless you do a few hacks. And if you do those hacks, you're liable for all kind of trouble. And since we have threading in here, we have to actually fully write out system Windows forms before our timer, because there's a timer in both threads in system Windows forms, and it will not know which one to use. And because we're doing multi-threading, we need to scream that we are closing. So let's jump back over to the server, right click on the form. Earbuds making my ears itch. Go to load, double click on load under the events because we want to load, and then go to closing, form closing. There we go. We need those two methods also. I like these form methods to be up close to the constructor. Might just be me, but I like it. Alright, so first off, in our load, we are going to set up our timer. Microsoft hates humpback notation now. They used to preach it, and now they actually punish you for using it. I think Microsoft watched too many I think someone at Microsoft watched too many of those 1960s dirty movies. They like to punish you all the time now. Okay, so I named my IP address wrong. I didn't name it. Haha. So I'm just going to name the IP text field. I didn't name any of these. What is wrong with me? That'll be TV IP address. And I could put, double S there. I think I did that one, yeah. TV send, receive, yeah, okay, I got the rest of them. Sorry about that. Okay. And we need a method down here. I'm going to give you another method just because to get our current IP address. But we actually need, let's see here, private static. We need to get our current IP address. We're going to use DNS to do that. So I got to get the host name, DNS.get host name. And it doesn't know what DNS is. String IP, DNS, get host entry of the host name. And we're just going to pick that very first address for our default address. I mean, why not? But there's yet another way. In this case, we're actually going to get an IP address object. And we're not going to use this function, I'm just including it. New word there. Same thing. But up here, really should be cleaning up my code a little bit, but that's okay. TV IP text is equal to get IP address. Now, where's our refresh button? Right there. Let's go ahead and get you set up. So this is not the most object-oriented project. Sometimes the best way to learn is not with perfect code. A lot of what the? Come on. Alrighty. So there's duplicate code all over the place. Like we just don't care because we don't care right now. So we'll clear out our servers list. And we're going to loop through all of those IP addresses. So we're going to get the IPv4, the IPv6, whatever else is in there. There we go. Nice and simple. Alrighty. Now, kind of setting up all of our non-P2P code, just our code to show us what's going on. So we're always going to append our messages. And this is like the worst way. The plus equals. It's better to use a system format, but we don't care. And empty out both of those strings. So yeah, there could be, since we're doing multi-threading, we could actually get another message midway through here and wipe it out. Just is. Okay, so there's our code on the tick. Let's go to closing. Tell everybody we are closing. Tell our listener to stop listening. Go through our collection of clients and close them. So they're going to close, but we also need to close right now, or we're going to get something that's very much like a memory leak. I guess it's not a memory leak, but it will lock up your system. And we don't want that. Our current TCP client is the last client that contacted us. So it may still be open. Want to stop it. Now let's go to our port. And let's try parse TV port text out in V. Set our port equal to it, because we cannot access this text box when we go to make our connection, because our connection is going to be made on another thread. Alrighty, let's start setting up our server. We've got all of our support set up. Alrighty. Where we at? Gotta set up all of our methods. So okay, so I'm going to put all of these of our custom methods down here at the bottom. I'm going to do them in a reverse order so we don't get a lot of errors. I know I've heard that bugs a lot of people. It's like, well, the method isn't written yet. But the red squiggly lines are apparently the bane of some people's existence. Hey! Getting used to link, I guess, and put the function call method of. Alright. Diagnostics should just be included from the beginning. So this is message to send a message. This is a method to send a message. This is a message to message. This is a method to send a message to all of our clients. We'll be using it a lot to relay messages from one chat to another. Remember, like the first chat that I built, it was like 1998, and I still have to look up all this stuff. Well, actually, the method was totally different. That was pre.NET, but it was in C++. But still, everything is different. It's not. our client's null, we did a boo-boo. And we do want to check our current client because we should have one. But we don't necessarily want to error out and return if our current client is null. We only do that if our token client is null. We just return all over. Socket exception, you really need to do try catches in this stuff. Going to have errors. When you do everything right in this, you're still going to have errors. So, I mean, it's just a point. You're working with pipes in the background. Everything's a pipe. So I'm getting the message, I'm converting the message, should I say, into a byte array, and now I'm going to write it to the socket of whichever client is being sent in to write to. So in this method, we can provide for private chats. I don't know, that's a person's name. We can provide for private chats within our public chat. I'm not worry about debug writing there. Alright, back to our button send. Our send to client, should I say. Where am I at? Right there. Send the TCP client in the message. And we're going to, we don't have to do all this, but for right now, since this is multi-threading, if we could error out right here, and our error catching doesn't catch it, so we'll know that we made it. If we see this message, we know that we made it that far. And if a client logged off, we want to get rid of it. And that is why we're not doing a for each, because we are modifying our collection. So here's all of our clients that have connected. If they're connected, we're going to send the message to them if this method is called. If they're not connected any longer, they may be reconnected. They may have got bumped off and came back on automatically. Then we need to remove that. And so we're modifying this array so we cannot do a for each loop. You cannot modify an array that you're doing a for each loop through any longer. You could in Visual Basic 6, but you cannot in .NET. I think you could at the beginning of .NET, but you can't anymore. Alright. There's our sends. We'll use them often in a few minutes. But now we need to tell, well actually, hold on, we need to load our listener first. Alright, so where's our listen button? I didn't. There you are. Let's move you up with the rest of our buttons. Okay. So, not the best method, but don't have the listen method yet, so quit screwing with me, Microsoft. Oh, because the listen method doesn't exist yet. Let's go ahead and stub it out. What if I spelt it wrong? Oh, thread start. Okay, thread start. There we go. And thread dot is background. Yes, it's a background thread. Don't want it to mess with my foreground. I don't want it to lock things up. Our listener has started. Alrighty. Let's get the listener into place. Or get the listen method into place. Excuse me. I am seeking down. So we're going to get our IP address that we have selected. That will be in our actual text box IP field. And if it is empty, we are going to grab our IP address from the get IP address method, which will be the first IP address, whether it's IPv4 or 6. I really need that nose. I was messing around with something. I had some more code in there. And we are going to, come on. Move you down here and put our listen worker underneath you. So we could pass something into our listener worker, but we're not. See, we always use data, not token. But everyone seems to be using token now. So do a catch-all down here. That's what exception is. Let's catch-all. Any exception we have not. We're going to forever listen while we are running. Our current TCP client will be always equal to the last person that talked. That could be a location in your game telling you where someone else is. Someone's fired a bullet. Someone's thrown an orange. Whatever. And here's another method we got to do. We got to handle the client. So it is common, or it was common practice to, in threads and static procedures, to handle something, to call it handle. Not necessary. You can call it A, B, C, D, E, F, G if you want to, but now this method doesn't make necessarily the most sense. Because, well, I'll show you in a second. Connect it to somebody. Catches us have a catch-all. Just grab this one. You can also, pump the method name in here if you want to be more specific. People are embarrassed to do too many things today. Got to learn somewhere. The person that claims to be a self-made developer, I say bull, or their ancient age. What? Come on. So this is where this doesn't make sense, because we need to send this message out to all the clients prior to it really being ready. A bunch of ways to fix that, but we're not in this tutorial. Well, we can try actually, if I remember. So we need to convert our bytes back into a string. So we read our incoming data. We're copying our bytes, which we read 1024, 40, 96 or whatever, 1K, 4K, whatever. Copying that into our incoming data, and now we're converting that into our client message. We need to combine all of our client messages before we do the following. And that is you see, now I'm sending this partial message, and now I'll send it again if there's more. Closing, I want to just get out this. This is in most of the examples, including some of the Microsoft examples. I don't totally agree with it, but, oh well. I don't know why we're returning here. We're outside the while loop. Probably can get rid of that, but I'm going to listen to the people that created the code. Okay, so we're almost there. Let's make sure I got all my code here. I don't want to do that. And we of course need our basics, some more basic code here. And what do we want to send? We want to send what we put in our text box when we push that button. Taking care of that, taking care of that, taking care of that, taking care of that. Alright, we're going to do one quick error check and then we'll jump over to the form client. Should go a little bit faster. Refresh, we have done. My local IP address, you can know that one. And our listener has started, is listening, but there's nothing to listen to. Okay. I don't think there's a lot of code review in here. Let's look at a few things though. Our stream is based on our TCP client. Our client is, or whatever we pass in, is converted to a TCP client. Our stream, we get a stream from it. That's a pipe, traditionally. While there is something to read in the stream, we are reading into bytes. Like I said, this message should be combined with a group message, and then we should have send to clients. That should be send to clients, not client. And we'll do a test on that. I'm just going to go ahead and write this. Combined message. And just hide it for right now. So we'll combine all these into one message, and then we'll send to client down here. But we want to do one test with the code of how it works. Our worker is an off-thread object, child thread object. We're sending our current client to that. A client has connected when this method is called. Therefore, we need to add it to the client's list, and we need to handle that client. But once the client is connected, we don't have to handle for it again. We'll be listening to it. Okay, so our current client is set to accept TCP client. We're accepting that client, putting it into our local array, and we're not closing that out yet. That's why in our form closing, we tried to close all those guys out. Where's our form closing? Right there. That's why we try to get rid of them all here. Stop our listener. Close everybody, and close this guy if it's still around. Which it should be actually in the array, but it may not be. Form refresh, very simple. Do I need this at all in here? No. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I'm getting my address list from here. So I'm going to do a quick connection to the internet. I'm going to see my temporary IP addresses since I have T-Mobile. These change often, which is a good thing. So there is a very coded, I believe it's a UAP or UDP version of the IP address. Here is my IPv6 version of the address, and here is my IPv4 address right now for this moment. I'm probably going to hide these. I don't think I want you to know. Here's my port. We're going to enter these values in here. Yeah, come to think of it, that's a security risk. I don't know how long this is going to stay around. So I'm highlighting something that you cannot see in the video right now. I do not want those. But we are going to enter. We want the IPv4, which is the traditional looking address, the 127.0.0.1 version of the address. Can I connect to that right now? Yeah, it'll connect to that right now. And here's our port. My ports are currently unblocked. They'll be blocked as soon as these videos are completed again. But I'm going to put everything on. I'll show you how to unblock them. That's part of this we need to do. but we're going to be working on port 8000. Let's get to the client and get the rest of this going.